actually, they have a structure fire, so. Is there not a rhythm? Fake ones? So we're just making sure the live stream's working. So appreciate everyone's patience. We're just, as soon as that Jacob comes back in and gives a thumbs up, we'll get rolling here. So. All right, we good? All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the City of Findlay City Planning Commission meeting, December 12th meeting. I am Rob Martin, the Service Safety Director for the City of Findlay. The mayor typically chairs this commission, but she is at a mayor's obligation outside of town today, so you have me. So hopefully I can fill the shoes at least partially to her level. So, okay, with that, Jacob, roll call.
Mr. Martin.
Here.
Mr. Trombley.
Here.
Ms. Schroeder.
Here.
Mr. Klinger.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Anyone that plans to speak today for or against any item, would you please stand so Jacob can swear you in?
All right. Do you affirm that all the testimony and evidence you're about to give in a case before this commission this day will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and will conform to the facts of the case and the rules of this commission? This you affirm under the pains and penalties of perjury. Please say I do.
All right, thank you. You may be seated. Next on the agenda, I have the November 12th City Planning Commission meeting minutes. Any discussions, edits, corrections?
I saw nothing, so I'd move to approve. Second.
All right, thank you. All right. We do have a tabled item.
You forgot to vote.
So, sorry,
All in favor?
my bad. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign? All right. Thank you. Got to keep me in line here. All right, moving on to items. We do have an old item that is tabled. It's a vacation alley Alley Vacation, I'm sorry, and that will remain tabled until January 9th's meeting. So, moving on to new items. An application for site plan review, SP 23-2024, filed by Reed Lubach, I apologize if that's pronounced wrong, to construct a 12,800 square foot of storage building at 7475 Reddick Road in Liberty Township. CPC staff comments.
Okay, so this request is located on the northeast end of Reddick Road, which is located in Liberty Township. For Liberty Township, it is zoned B2 General Commercial. It's not located within the 100-year floodplain, and the City of Findlay Land Use Plan designates the parcel as Regional Commercial. Staff analysis, the applicant indicated that they would be constructing a 10,560 square foot storage building. The space would be divided into 12 individual storage units, sized 22 feet by 40 feet each. This building would be at the north end of the parcel with paved light-duty parking area just south, which would have 23 parking spaces. The rest of the area to the south would be an asphalt grinding storage lot. So staff didn't have any concerns with the proposed plans. So our staff recommendation is CPC staff recommends approval of the application for site plan review SP 23-2024 filed by Reed Lubbock to construct 12,800 square foot of storage building at 7475 Reddick Road in Liberty Township.
Engineering?
Since this is outside city limits, I mean, really the only thing that we can really look at is the water and sewer. Been working with the developer on that, with the taps and all that, so I don't really have any concerns with it.
Okay, fire prevention.
No comment.
So the recommendation in front of the commission is staff recommends CPC approval of application for site plan review SP 23-2024 filed by Reed Lubbock to construct 12,800 square foot storage building at 7475 Reddick Road in Liberty Township. Good morning. Would you like to introduce yourself and kind of just any added comments or anything you want to add to this discussion?
Yeah, my name is Reed Hubbock, yeah.
So it's pronounced, I have to introduce, it's actually pronounced H, or is it?
It's actually supposed to be an H. Not an L.
Oh, that's why it's, that's like, wow, that's an interesting, okay. So sorry about that, sir.
No, you're good. Findlay Flex Park is a small business park here in Findlay, Ohio. The main tenants there is small business owners. So yeah, I mean, it ranges widely from auto detailing to junk removal. I mean, just any small business that needs space locally in Findlay. So the main reason for water and sewer is pretty much just for bathrooms for each unit.
Anyone, I guess let's start with that. Anyone in the audience that wants to speak additionally to this for or against this project? Okay. No one's hiding back there. All right, commission, comments, questions for the gentleman?
A couple things. You're doing this in two phases apparently, because you've got half of it started now, and you have your so you have Liberty Benton approval for this operation. When we say this is regional commercial, is what we would, what you would foresee that as? Would that include a asphalt grinding operation? Normally, we would see that in a light industrial classification.
Yeah, this is Liberty Township.
Yeah, right.
And it all depends on their definitions. And if you travel out in that portion of the township, things are a little chaotic. Got a lot of different uses everywhere.
Yeah, it seems a little strange to have a, yes,
That's, the south part is, it's basically a gravel lot, but he's
Right.
using asphalt grindings. So it's not an operation of
it's-
asphalt grindings, it's an asphalt grinding parking lot for storage.
oh,
So
It's-
basically what these units are is it's the same thing we did,
off of Sandusky, yeah.
off of Totten Avenue. It's small contractor storage. There's gonna be a little garage, small office, and that's just outside storage. Everything has been submitted through Liberty Township. They've reviewed, they've approved the plans. Obviously, it's gone through the state. So again, it's not the asphalt operation, it's just asphalt grinding parking.
Okay, I thought that seemed a little odd for that close.
See where that was going, so I wanted to make sure I
Yeah.
kind of set that straight.
Yeah. Good
And
redir-
just
good
a reminder,
redirection.
this is in Liberty Township,
Yeah, our
And they're all-
review is limited just to the water and sewer.
water and sewer.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, just so you understand, it's not an asphalt grinding operation, it's just parking.
Yeah.
Storage lot.
Yep. Good clarity.
Now, Matt, a question for you. When is it, because of water and sewer, when is it that you require them to file for annexation? Because there's some other issues going on out there right now. Do you have to be contiguous to the city? Okay.
Yeah, if they were contiguous, we would require annexation
Okay.
with the utilities. Because they're not contiguous, they sign a annexation agreement. But if they become contiguous, they will annex, they will not
Okay.
fight annexation to within the city.
Okay.
So one quick question. The notes mention that there's a detention pond that they'll be using, an existing one. Where is that located?
If you look. Now it's on. For the when Reddick Road came in, they put a series of detention facilities in. There's a detention pond here,
Okay.
there's a detention pond over there, and there's two along 224. They're all interconnected, and they have all been designed for the entire subdivision drainage, in 100% developed condition.
Okay.
As part of that, they did, we did work with the township and county. They did a little bit of regrading in here, to
I
make
just
sure
didn't see
everything worked.
anything when I was out there that indicated there was a pond, and
It's
so
the
I was
old-
wondering where it was at.
Yeah, it's the old fashioned grass swales where that's what you were able to use before the Ohio EPA changed their regulations.
You had to go over to Reddick to see it.
Anything else?
I'd make a motion to approve the site plan approval.
I'll second.
Okay. Jacob, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Mr. Trombley,
Aye.
Ms. Schroeder,
Aye.
Mr. Klinger,
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, item number 2, application for site plan review, SP 24-2024, filed by Valvoline LLC to construct a new 2-bay Valvoline instant oil change facility at 500 Trenton Avenue. CPC staff comments.
Okay. The request is located on the north side of West Trenton Avenue, between Bolton Street and Maury Avenue. It's zoned C2 General Commercial along Trenton Avenue. It's an area that's zoned C2 General Commercial. To the north, it's a mix of R3 small lot and MH mobile home. Not located within the 100-year floodplain, and the City of Findlay Land Use Plan designates the parcel as regional commercial. Parcel history, the site's currently vacant after previously been operating as a mobile home, as you can see on the aerial there. Staff analysis, the applicant has requested to build a 2-bay Valvoline oil change at the location. The entrance to the bays would be on the north side of the building to allow stacking to flow away from West Trenton Avenue. Stacking for the bays could accommodate at least 6 vehicles without interfering with the parking lot to the north. The parking area could accommodate 9 cars. They've met all the setback requirements and height restrictions for the C2 district, and they have submitted a photometric sheet which shows they meet the requirements for the lighting. In terms of landscaping, they have met the requirements from the code. There are 16 trees on site, of which there's a row of 8 Norway spruce, which help screen the parking lot from the neighborhood to the north. They've gone above and beyond on providing shrubs and have 149 shrubs when they were only required to install about 30. This will help not only screen the neighborhood to the north, but also provide a bit of vegetation around that drainage pond at the southeast corner of the site. So staff recommendation, CPC staff recommends approval of the site application for site plan review SP-24-2024 filed by Valvoline LLC to construct a new 2-bay Valvoline instant oil change facility at 500 Trenton Avenue.
Engineering.
So originally when Starbucks came through, which is just west of this site, kind of all those drives, if you guys remember, we reworked the drives in there to ensure that we reduced from 3 to 2 on that. With the drive on the set of plans that I had, it might have changed, so it might be a repeat. But I want to make sure that curb and gutter is maintained through the curb cut, so that way it's not asphalt being transitioned to asphalt. That way, too, that's going to have to be pretty much a concrete drive because of the sidewalk going through there. So I want to make sure that we maintain that curb and gutter going through, and then also that is ADA compliant going through there as well on the north side as well. With the water service and the sewer, it looks like they're reinstating some of the services that are already there, which is fine. We'll just have to work with our water and sewer department, just make sure everything is good. If an irrigation line is going to be needed, that will be a separate tap because we have different backflow requirements on that. Stormwater detention, just kind of like the drives, that was all put together as part of the original package, and they're also they have it as part of this, so that pond over to the east of the site is covering all that. So really no concerns with the site. This was already kind of planned out, just a different user from when we originally seen it. So just make sure we have all permits prior to.
Fire prevention.
We just want to be sure they obtain all the permits needed for construction.
Okay. Recommendation, the staff recommends CPC approval of application for site plan review SP 2024 filed by Valvoline LLC to construct a new two-bay Valvoline instant oil change facility at 500 Trenton Avenue. Candidate here? Good morning. Good morning. You come up and introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Mahalik. I'm with CESO. We're the design and permitting consultant for Valvoline on this project, and there's not much to add to that great introduction to this site. So thank you, Jacob, for putting this all together. But yeah, as you can see here, this is located at 500 Trenton Avenue. It's Valvoline's prototypical two-bay facility, very low traffic generator. I think speaking to the access, we have new access off Trenton Avenue there, as well as new access off of the road there to the north, and significant landscaping upgrades to this site, along with any other site-related upgrades, including pavement, utilities, site lighting, signage, those types of things. And speaking to the stormwater, just to kind of recap, that was put in place, I think, planned for accommodation of our site as well. So we've kind of designed our site to tie into that appropriately, and we're here to answer any questions you guys might have. Thanks for your consideration on this. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience was here to speak for or against this project? Okay. Commission, comments, discussion.
Yeah, Mike, just a quick question. What are you doing with the used oil storage? Is that in an underground tank? Is that in drums? Where do you store that at?
Yep. So Valvoline actually has a basement where they do have the oil tank stored, and it's actually pretty interesting. They will pump the oil. A truck will pull up, in this case, on the right side of the building there. Oh, I was wondering where the gentleman was using that. Here it is. Okay. So you can see kind of right here, there's actually a hookup for this truck to come hook in and pump that used oil out. It's pretty cool. So there's no, used oil drums getting rolled out of the building or anything like that. So it's completely enclosed. And then, of course, we plan access so that truck can make a safe ingress, egress out.
Okay.
They're also able to pump the new oil in that way, too.
So to clarify that, because it's an interesting concept in the basement. So it's actually, are the storage containers for new and used underground under the basement, or are they actually in the basement?
They're in the basement.
Okay, so
yes.
we don't have to worry about underground storage.
Correct.
Yeah.
They're in the basement. Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
One, I wanted to clarify, I love that you've went over the top with the landscaping to kind of be harmonious with what's already there. One thing is we have I call it a barn, but it's a Kwanzaa hut to the northeast.
Okay.
The building that's actually in that, the property that's around that L shape. Yeah, I could probably use a
I was trying to
pointer,
figure
too,
out what
sorry.
that was. No, that's
Yeah.
okay.
I just, height of that landscape, I was hoping that, to assure that it was, if we're gonna put arborvitaes and different things to surround this property, that our focus of height and seasonal screening would focus on that property more so than others.
Understood.
If that makes sense?
Yeah. appropriately shielding that kind of year round, I think is what you're getting at there.
Yeah,
Okay.
so like these, again, I'm not a tree guy, but I do know some things, you know, during the winter, lose their
Right.
foliage and some maintain it. So the height and the year-round coverage here would really be in my preference.
Absolutely, yeah, we can certainly make sure, we'll check with our landscape architect to ensure that meets those needs. And if it's not, we can sub those out to make sure that it does, if that's acceptable to the commission.
And so a quick question, on landscaping too. I see this is version 1.1. What we have in our packets 1.0, and you can't see it because it's not displayed on the sheet. But on the north side of the lot, there was 8 Norway spruce. Is that still in the plan?
Actually, yeah, you know what, Carrie, this, if we flip back one sheet, I don't know if you guys have the 1.0, it should show a more zoomed out. Is it not in here? Actually, maybe try going the other way. Yep.
Okay, so sorry, that wasn't an updated version. We have the latest version. That was just a zoomed in version.
Right,
Okay, all right.
L1.1, yeah, that's
I
more
got
of a
you. All right.
detailed
Yep,
version.
thanks.
Yep,
yeah.
no problem.
Has-
He's saying here, this is, I thought that was just an updated, but that's just a different page.
Okay, yeah.
Back. We're good.
Additional comments, questions?
I saw that you got it set back about 55 feet from the right-of-way. You've got a lot of property to the back yet. Was there some reason why you might not set that back a little further so you got a little better flow coming out of the bays?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying there. I can't speak to that. I'm not sure, Jacob, if you remember why we would have done something like that, but it may be for a visibility standpoint, you know, the closer we can get it to the roadway. I'd have to, again, I can confirm that, but I don't know if there's a reason we had set it right after the 55-foot setback, building setback off of Trenton. But again, I think to me, I want to say it's for a visibility standpoint for traffic coming down the road. Yeah.
Yeah, you're far in front of the adjacent building to the east. You know, it just seems like coming out of the bays and then trying to make that turn is a little snug.
I see what you mean there, yeah. And it could be also, too, we do have some standards for the trash enclosure and things like that as far as, you know, minimum distance for that truck to be able to safely access the dumpster, and in this case, back up and leave the site. That may be pertaining to it, as well as there's usually some stacking standards here as well.
Yeah.
I think what Valvoline tries to do is plan for a 3-bay stack, and in this case, that would bring you up to about here. So that, along with your parking, having those dimensions met as well, may have pushed us all the way back, requiring that much room there.
Dan, I just did a quick measurement on Google Earth, and that's pretty close to where Starbucks is as
Is it?
well.
Okay.
I mean, it give or take a couple feet, but
Yeah.
it's pretty close to that.
Okay.
And the sign out front is low profile, meeting what our requirements are?
That's correct.
And for the permits, talk to Eric about those for the monument sign.
Absolutely, yep. Signage is a deferred submittal from Valvoline, so their signage contractor, yep. We'll work through the correct channels there.
Is there a limit to the building signage that's allowed?
The city of Findlay doesn't regulate wall signage.
Okay. Any question?
I don't have any other questions.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan approval.
I'll second.
Question is, do we need to have a condition on that they work with city engineering, or is that well enough understood that it doesn't need to be in part of the language here?
Are you talking about for the curb cut in front?
Yeah, curb cut and the other
I
utilities.
think that's pretty standard.
Yeah,
Okay.
when they get the drive permits and stuff, we normally work with the contractor on that, but I just want them to be aware that that's what we'll be requiring when they go to do that drive, so.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Jacob,
Great.
whenever you're ready.
Ms. Schroeder,
Aye.
Mr. Klinger,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye,
Mr. Trombley.
Aye.
thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Have a good day.
You too.
All right, agenda item number 3, application for site plan review SP 25-2024, filed by FFV Holdings LLC to construct a 24,000 square foot of commercial building for Soar Adventure Park on Lot 79 of the Covington Greens replat number 2. CPC staff comments.
All right, so the, okay, so the request is located, in the Covington Green subdivision, north of, Milestone Drive. It's zoned C2 General Commercial. To the south and the east, it's zoned C2 General Commercial. To the north, it's zoned R2 Medium Lot Residential. To the west, there is some M2 multifamily high density. It is not located within the 100-year floodplain, and the City of Findlay land use map designates the parcel as regional commercial. Parcel history: the site's currently vacant. It's just south of the Ashley Furniture Store. So applicant has indicated they would construct a 24,000 square foot building to house an indoor adventure park. This building would keep the same building line as the Ashley Furniture to the north. The height of the building is under the 60-foot requirement in that district, and they'd meet all rear and side yard setbacks. Plans indicate that they will utilize the existing parking lot that has already been provided on site. There's no additional landscaping provided as part of the plan. And other infill projects in C2 districts, staff has required or recommended that there be an attempt to increase the landscaping provided on site. Given the nature of the existing parking lot, staff would like to see an increase in those plantings provided in the islands. There's also a strip in the 15-foot side yard setback that was indicated as either a grass or a landscape stone. Staff thought that might be a good area for some planting, so staff would like to work with the applicant to find some additional areas for plantings. So our recommendation is CPC staff recommends approval of the site application for site plan review SP-25-2024 filed by FFV Holdings LLC to construct a 24,000 square foot commercial building for a Soar Adventure Park on lot 79 of the Covington Greens replat number 2 with the following condition: would work with HRPC to approve landscape plan.
Engineering.
Really on the access, the biggest thing, and it's not really a concern, just kind of a comment, just as normal, make sure everything's ADA compliant with going around, because you guys do have a nice sidewalk going around it, so just make sure that's compliant. Water service is going to be coming off a 12-inch main line that is to the west of the building. We'll work with you guys on final locations where we'll be putting the taps and all that kind of stuff. We know where you guys want it in the building, but we'll work with you on that as we do. Sanitary service, no concerns with that. And then the stormwater, there is a regional detention for that, so there's no concerns. So just make sure we have the proper tap permits and stuff prior to construction.
Fire prevention.
We just want to make sure they get the proper permits for construction.
Okay, so the recommendation, staff recommends approval of the application for site plan review SP at 25-2024 filed by FFV Holdings LLC to construct 24,000 square feet of commercial building for Soar Adventure Park on lot 79 of Covington Greens replat number 2 with the following conditions. They work with HRPC to approve landscape plan. There's a lot of redundancy in that. So, sorry. When you're saying it versus sitting next to the person saying it, it's a little more obvious. So, all right. Anyhow, I digress. Good morning.
Morning.
You want to give us a little color commentary on what we're going to do here?
Yeah, morning. So we're working on building this adventure park. We think it's something that Findlay really needs for kids and for families to come and enjoy. As far as the construction and really the branding we've come up with over the last couple of years that we've been working on it is more of an outdoor theme, more of maybe a bring the mountains to Findlay theme, since, you know, we're relatively flat. So that's kind of the idea here. The comments around additional landscaping, heard loud and clear. That's, you know, love to be able to do that. So that's kind of where we're at.
What is the theme of this Soar Park? Is it like inflatables in there, or is it what kind of functions?
No, it's all fixed equipment. No inflatables that could be switched out. So starting at the front and kind of working your way back, we have a 24-foot climbing wall. We have a zip line. It's almost a 50-foot zip line over a big airbag. We have some additional climbing over an airbag, trampolines, and let's see, dodgeball court, ninja course.
Okay.
Then a large soft play area, so more of a toddler focus, kind of a 3-story, really large thing for the smaller children to play in. And the supplier we're using is out of Texas. All the equipment, American made, high quality stuff. You can go overseas and get this stuff for a lot cheaper, but we're shooting for quality and
Okay.
longevity.
So really, it's a family across the spectrum of
Yes.
ages, family adventure. Good.
Yep.
Now you're showing a canopy on the side and a function going on out there. What's happening there?
Yeah, so there will be a drive along the whole north
Right.
side of the building, so that we can bring in food trucks or food trailers and, basically let them pull up next to our outdoor canopy there and serve our customers food.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
so that's interesting. I didn't catch that. That's actually a cool idea. Would you actually have concessions outside of that inside as well, or no?
Very minimal,
Okay.
maybe some, bottled drinks,
Vending.
maybe some, vending or prepackaged stuff, but very minimal, nothing requiring food or service permit.
I might be getting into the weeds, but this is commercial, but it kind of is tucked in next to some multifamily residential. Hours of operation, pretty standard.
Yeah, I think at this point we're talking probably limited or closed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Friday and Saturday, maybe more open until 10 p.m. to serve the slightly older crowd or later crowd, but yeah, very standard.
Okay.
All of our lighting, interior, exterior, will be controlled in a way that is friendly to the neighborhood.
So, looking at the parking and everything, this came to us a while ago, and we kind of broke this out in different sections. This large parking area that was underutilized. You're dedicated to this area. Sorry, I'm looking at a piece. Yes.
There we go.
So you're dedicated to maintain this, something that and I'm not suggesting this would be the case here, but other retail areas in Findlay share a lot of parking, and then the maintenance, there's a lot of it's not mine to maintain and whatnot. And we have a lot of unmaintained concrete jungles. So what is the plan? So we've actually broke this out in different parcels in recent months. Can we talk about what the plan is to maintain this to the standard that I think you would probably want it to be maintained over the period of long?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's an existing declarations of easements and whatnot from 2004 when it was originally constructed. That is now adopted by Timberstone Holdings, who purchased the entire facility in June, I think, and then we've purchased our lots from them. We're working on an amended and restated update of those standards, just get everything up to date now with the broken out lots and whatnot. That's pending review by the Ashley Furniture owners. But long story short, Timberstone Holdings will maintain the entire lot uniformly, and that agreement will be in place among all the owners of the lots.
Okay. On your drawings, I didn't see a dumpster enclosure. Do you have one, or did I miss it?
We didn't have one at this point. We were just placing it in the rear of the building, similar to what the existing businesses do there.
Would they not fall under the requirements for the dumpster enclosure?
They would, yes.
Yeah.
There's been different discussions on exactly what's going on with that, and once we determine exactly what's going on, there's been discussion about needing a dumpster, not needing a dumpster, once all of that is worked out. Again, because the use inside is not gonna be a big generator of, waste.
Okay.
So we'll definitely look at that. And if there is a dumpster outside, they elect to do that, we'll work and make sure that the enclosure meets all codes.
Okay. On your ramp to the west, is there some way that you're going to emphasize that to where, traffic wouldn't veer over and?
Right now, that is a big engineering task. We've been working literally for the last 6 weeks with the architects, the contractor, and the owner on how to do that. This area is changing slightly with regards to the location of the overhead doors and the ramp and how to make that transition better just by grading and stuff there. So yes, long story short, it will be set up such that it's not going to be a detriment. There's not gonna be any safety issues, and you will still have adequate passage going up and around for larger vehicles, because Ashley's, delivery and stuff is back there,
Yeah.
so we're taking that in consideration. And again, this is gonna be more of simple deliveries. We're not looking for a semi backup. You know, if they're gonna bring equipment in and out, it's gonna be smaller, either handouts or a small, little hand truck type of thing.
Yeah,
So
okay.
you're not looking at a massive undertaking like you would a commercial or an industrial use.
Right. Okay.
One thing I'd like to point out about landscaping, obviously we'll definitely work with the administration, but the one thing that didn't quite show up as well as we wanted to is we have the sidewalk right here, but we also have a 3-foot landscape area in between the building and the walk. And then we also have another landscape strip in between the walk and the parking lot. So the intent there is to go ahead and add, we'll call it foundation plantings there to help break up and come a little bit more in compliance with the code. And again, that's something that we'll work with the administration on, but I wanted to let you guys know that we are looking at doing some landscaping up front there in those areas as well.
Okay, good.
Is anyone here in the audience that wants to speak for or against this? Sir, if you want to come up, and you're welcome to come up and state your name and make sure the mic's on, please.
My name is Matthew Stanek. I'm a resident on Bluestone Drive, directly to the north. And, yeah, in that area. And myself and all of my neighbors are going to have to stare at this thing every day. I'd like to know, since it's under the 60-foot height limit, how tall is this thing going to be?
It'll be roughly 38 feet at the peak and about 27 to 28 feet at the outside edges.
And how does that compare to the height of Ashley Furniture?
That I don't know.
It's about double. So, you know, it's going to be a... I suppose the other question is regarding trash and dumpsters directly to the west. It is my opinion that the builder of this, you know, the owner, should be required to coordinate with the same trash pickup schedule and contractor that does Ashley Furniture, because the noise from all the banging around is a lot, and it impacts us. How do you feel about that?
Totally fair. I think it's a reasonable thing for us to talk to them about, but we'll, I mean, I can't commit to anything at this point. We just gotta look closer and see what that means. I don't know who they're with in any of that. so.
Well, Ashley's not going anywhere, but
Right.
I can tell you when the big trucks come through and take away Ashley's refuse, it'll wake you up, for sure. I'd also like to know what your plan is for limiting light pollution and light spill to the west. It's already, you know, because of Ashley, there's some of that there. How much additional lighting do you intend to spill?
And the lighting on the west side of the building would be, I guess I'd say minimum required for the, for the 9 hours. I'm not familiar with those standards, but, and we can have it on control so that when we're not open, but you need some light in that rear lot. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but it'll be very limited to the west.
Yeah, it's, so the heavy equipment and the grading has already been done. Is it safe to assume that this is a done deal?
Yep. We're moving forward as though it's a deal.
Well, I mean, you know, it's graded, the heavy equipment's there, you know. Thank you for considering my concern about the trash pickup and the light spill. My neighbors and myself appreciate that. And I think it's a relevant concern.
Go ahead, sir.
I mean, yeah, we want to build something that's here for the community and for the community to use, and that is a good neighbor. So we appreciate your comments and feedback too.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, sir, we appreciate your comments to actually bring those up. And some of those things that you brought up, we want to make sure that, now, looking at this, we can't be naive to think that this isn't going to continue to be developed, right? I mean, look at the open green space, look at the parking. This was built to suit for commercial, retail, whatever that looks like. So, but our job is to make sure it's harmonious with your neighborhood so you don't impact them any more than they impact you, and you kind of just have a synergy amongst yourselves. So if we can create some coordination of things so it doesn't disrupt you in your neighborhood, that's our goal. That's our goal. But I mean, for us to think that this isn't going to be developed, we're excited to have this developed versus just being a big parking lot and green space. So that's what the intent of this was. And I don't know the history of this was here before the neighborhood to the north. I don't know that history, but I mean, this was all developed probably in the same few years of each other. So, I mean, again, I don't know the history and timing of the residential development versus this, but this area was clearly put together for the intent of being retail commercial. So I think knowing what this is going to be for the betterment of, family activity and, recreation, I can think of a lot less desirable things to be going into that lot that would fall within the criteria of being there. So I'm not trying to counter your concerns, because they're valid, and that's why we're here to make sure that we make sure it's not too disruptive to you and your neighbors. But I just wanted to point that out, that I think this is a good infill for this area.
Thank you. And thank you for listening to my concerns and my neighbors.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the audience speaking for or against?
Real quick,
Anything?
I'd like to comment on the lighting on the, going to the west. Typically, these buildings have wall pack lighting that are shielded and directed downward. There's not going to be any new poles or anything installed along the west side of the property. Obviously, we do have that back door entrance with the ramp, so there will be, a security light there. But again, it's going to be a wall pack mounted, relatively lower height. It's not going to be up to peak, and it'll be pointing down. So just to let you know and to let you understand what it is. Again, it's just going to be one of those wall packs.
38 feet, we're all going to see that light, and it's going to.
It's not going to be at
like I said, it's
38
not going to
feet.
be at the peak. It's going to be down more closer to the actual doors itself.
That would be good.
Dan, just to clarify, there's no new parking lot lighting?
Correct.
So the only new lighting will be the wall packs?
That's correct. Yes.
Can we request, it would be nice if the elevation, the height of the wall packs were lower than the height of the Ashley furniture?
The existing building.
Yeah. That way they would be doubly blocked. I know they're built, screened, but I think that would be helpful.
I believe, just knowing the height of the buildings and stuff like that and the doors and everything, I think that should be an easy request to make sure that we can handle.
Excellent, thank you.
Good. Any questions from the commission? Dan?
No, I'm good.
I kind of echo it. I'm excited about this. I have a family that looks for activities, and being that we live in the Midwest where sometimes you can't get outside, this is a welcomed investment in our community. So I'm personally, is not only for the city and my position, but as a resident in this community, I'm excited about this. So I appreciate your vision and your investment in our community. I think this is something not only our community, but it'll draw people into our community and recognize what we have. So I appreciate this. So,
Absolutely.
all right. I will make a motion to approve this.
I'll second.
Jacob, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Klinger,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Trombley,
Abstain.
Ms. Schroeder.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thanks.
All right. Item number 4, application for conditional use CU 13-2024 filed by Richard Binner to split parcel 610000345831 at the northeast corner of the intersection of Washington Avenue and Olive Street into 5 parcels. The applicant is requesting to construct a triplex on each lot. General information.
And just to clarify, that's a typo. It should say 10 parcels. There are, if you can see on the build, there's 10
Yeah.
buildings, so 1 building on each lot.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
so general information. So this request is at the northeast corner of the intersection of Washington Avenue and Olive Street. It is zoned R3 small lot residential. To the north and west, it's a mix of R1 large lot residential, R2 medium lot residential, and there are some R3 duplexes dotted around the neighborhood. To the east, it's a mix of O1 office, which you can see on the northeast corner of that block. There's some R3 small lot residential on the south side of that block. And it is not located within the 100-year floodplain. Parcel history, site's currently vacant. Staff analysis, the applicant is proposing to subdivide the property into 10 smaller lots. Each lot would in turn have a triplex on site. The triplex units would meet the minimum floor area required by the code. These triplexes would be 1-story ranch-style units facing Washington Avenue. Parking is proposed in the rear of the lot, with the parking lots having shared access for all the newly created parcels. Each individual parcel would have 6 parking spaces. There is not any additional landscaping proposed on site. Staff would recommend either having some sort of a fence or a row of landscaping along the east side of the site. Although the city doesn't have parking lot screening standards for R3, we did feel it was appropriate, given the additional 60 parking spaces added to the site as a whole, that landscaping or fencing be included. There is an office building to the east with a parking lot that would abut the northern lots. This landscaping and fencing would help screen between the 2 uses. The applicant was recently approved for a triplex on nearby East Edgar Avenue. One of the conditions on that one was that the first unit have an architectural feature to have the unit facing the street rather than along the side of the building, and this will help the units blend with the existing area better. Elevations had been provided, and Matt's flipping through them as we speak. Staff recommendation. So CPC staff recommends approval of the application for conditional use CU-13-2024 filed by Richard Binner to split lot 610000345831 at the northeast corner of the intersection of Washington Avenue and Olive Street into 10 parcels, with the applicant requesting a triplex on each with the following conditions. Make the unit closest to Washington Avenue have a front entry to make it oriented to the street, and include screening or landscaping in the rear to screen the parking.
Engineering.
No real comment on it. The only thing is we'll have to work with Rich on how you want the water taps, if you want one for each living quarter or one for each building. So we'll work that out as you go through and get permits on that, on how many we'll actually need for that.
Fire prevention.
No comment.
Okay, so the staff recommends approval of application for conditional use CU-13-2024 filed by Mr. Benner to split parcel 610000345831 at the northeast corner of the intersection of Washington Avenue and Olive Street into 10 parcels. The applicant is requesting it to construct a triplex on each lot with the following conditions. Make the unit closest to Washington Avenue, have a front entry to make it oriented to the street, and include screening or landscaping in the rear to screen the parking lot. And do I need to add that about the taps or no? Is that just additional?
No, we'll work that out.
Secondary, okay.
That's standard.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Dan?
Yeah, just go ahead and like to address some of the comments. The plans that we provided does not show the actual front bump out, but the architectural plans that we submitted to the planning does show that on all of them. So the intent is to go ahead, and again, if you were to look at this, over here would be Washington Street. So these front bump outs are going to be on all of the units that will face Washington, like it's shown here. With regards to the architecture of the actual building itself, he's looking at doing two different roof styles. Some are going to be gable ends, some's going to be a hip roof. And the other thing that we've talked about is along the front of the buildings facing Washington, the front of it here, the bottom below the window will have some type of stone or different visual look to the actual front of the building, so it's not all going to be vinyl siding. So it'll be a stone or brick style of look down there. So again, the intent is, obviously we're trying to break up the architecture a little bit rather than just having a straight front building, adding a little bit of, again, amenities to it. The one thing about the site layout, how we kind of have it, is we're also trying to create more of a courtyard type of situation between the two buildings. So that's why, we got the parking in the back. We have a common sidewalk, where again, they kind of all just kind of intermingle. And again, what'll happen here is we'll have the bump outs up front and then the sidewalks will come over. So again, trying to make it, community oriented type of feel, changing the front facade a little bit to give it a little more appeal as what, the planning commission members have requested on some of his other units that he just did. So again, we tried to set all of the parking up in the rear, makes it a little more common. We don't have a bunch of driveways and stuff coming off Washington. The one thing that we would also like to talk to the members of Planning Commission about is the same what we did with Edgar. We put all of the required parking behind the building. We would like to see what your thoughts are of putting, we'll say, 1 or 2 parking spaces per building coming off of Washington for, we'll call it overflow. Similar to what was done on Edgar. Again, it's something that we want to kind of get your opinion on and just have a discussion on it. But again, the zoning is set up for this. These lots, meet the code. If somebody were to come in and put smaller, homes in here, it would still be, the same number of lots, if not more lots. So again, it's a good infill area. We feel that it's a good fit. And again, it's, housing that is needed in the city.
I'll
Screen-
start.
I'm sorry.
No, go
screening.
ahead.
Talk about screening real quick.
Yes.
We did talk about, putting some, we would prefer to go ahead and use more landscaping than fencing, do more of a softscape. We understand, Rob, what you spoke about, about having more of a year-round, more dense green. That would be kind of what we would plan there and, possibly throw, a tree or so in those islands and stuff. So screening along the east side will not be an issue. Putting up some, arborvitae and some shrubs and stuff like that to help break up and shield the parking lots.
Okay, thank you. I'll start. My first statement, as I've said when Mr. Benner comes in the past, we appreciate your investment in the community and the infill that you do. You do great work, and if anyone questions that, they should go by some of your properties that you've built in recent years, because you do great work. So just wanted to thank you for that. And the other is, we do need infill housing. And this looks like a reasonable location for it. I know there's probably going to be some opposition to this, and we'll have discussion, but I just wanted to put that out there. Regarding the parking, I appreciate that it's on the east side of these, and it's less disruptive to the existing residential that's there. because of where it's actually at to open field and commercial. I did the quick math on this. I'm doing it right. We have 90 parking spots existing. I think that would be more than sufficient without having parking, my opinion, instead of adding parking spots on the Washington side, because of the reality is that would create more disruption to the existing residentials on the the west side of Washington. What in the other, sorry, I'm kind of just peppering you a little bit with comments and questions. And my question would be lighting along the parking for security aspects. Will there be any additional lighting, or would it be like wall packs off the existing buildings facing?
At this point, there's no intention to put any type of parking lot lighting.
Okay.
So no high poles. Obviously, there'll be minor lighting off the backside of the building
Okay.
to give some security back there. And, the walkways and stuff will be, they'll have lighting again from the building. So the intent is not to have any external lighting other than what's going to be on the building.
My final comment, I guess, at least at this point, would be, I think of this many residents, what about garbage, sorry, that's where first word's not coming out right. What about garbage? Are we going to have like a dumpster for everyone to use, or is this going to be literally 90,
You want dumpster for everyone?
like 30
what-
different pickup plastic containers, or will it be a dumpster for everyone
What
to
it
use?
sounds like is, there will be, from Rich is what's saying, we will have a dumpster.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll look at maybe not one for everybody, maybe a couple smaller ones, because again, this is going to be developed in phases.
Sure.
So the last thing we want to do is, put the big dumpster down here, and these people have to go all the way down.
Yeah.
So what we can do is we can look at the dumpster. Again, what we'll do is we'll look at, how the trash truck will come in, access it, and we know that if there is an external dumpster, it will have to be screened in accordance with the code. So dumpsters will be, again, set up, and again, we'll set it up such that they're along the east edge, being sensitive to these owners and the current residents over there. So again, we'll set everything up on that side.
Okay, I'm done for now. Thanks.
Hey Dan, on the architectural, are all 10 of these buildings going to look exactly the same?
When you say, are you talking about inside, outside?
No, I'm talking about the outside. If I'm coming down Washington. The aesthetics of it, thank you. Or are the buildings going to be different enough from one another? My question is more around, you're in a largely single-family residential neighborhood where all the houses look a little bit different.
Right. And that's
How
what
it-
the intent is. Like I said, we're going to change the roof line. So
Okay.
rather than having a flat roof to, the gable roof, the doors will be positioned differently on each
For
side.
the left and the right hand.
So when you're driving
Okay.
down there, you're not going to look at the house. It's not going to be the same face, same door, same face, same door. The doors are going to be positioned, on different sides of the building. You're going to have different roof lines, with the different, we call it the wainscoting along the bottom. Some will be brick, some will, have the stone look. So
Do you-
we're trying to break it up as much
Okay.
as possible rather than having one building for all 10 of them.
Right.
Because again, we do understand that in a residential neighborhood, each house is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Some of them look consistent, similar, but again, we're trying to do that. And Rich is toying around with the, possibly changing colors of the buildings. It kind of goes both ways. Sometimes you don't like to have green, blue, white, brown, green, blue, white, brown.
Right.
So that's something that we're toying around with. But again, by adding the different locations of the doors, the different wainscoting, the different roof lines, we're trying to break it up as much as we can with the triplex building itself.
A word you use, sorry, go ahead, finish your.
Do you have a drawing showing what those two roof lines look like?
They do. The architectural drawings kind of show. Matt, if you want to flip. All right, so this is one here where you can see the angled roof here. If this is the porch right here,
Right.
and that's the main roof. Matt, if you go 2 more pages, and then you can see how this one's got the square roof.
Okay.
So again, that's the difference between a hip and a gable, is just the angle. And
Okay.
when you're looking at the house, it does appear to be different, especially, Matt, can you go back a page? Like with this one here, if you look down here, it's got like a little eyebrow, and then, so you'll have different architectural projections in the front, versus if you go back 2 more pages, Matt. Sorry. The other way. You can see here that this is just, you know, it
that's a
doesn't
flat
have that
roof
there.
line.
Right.
Okay.
So again, you know, by changing the roof pitch, it's gonna give you, again, different visual frontages, and that's what the key is what we're trying to do there.
Okay. And I like the idea of doing different colors too. I mean, yeah, not a pattern probably, but
Right.
making them so when I, you know, run down there or drive down there, right, you're not going to see 10 houses that look all the same. So that, I appreciate the different stone, the different type of brick, the different roof lines, the different colors, mixing and matching that to try to make them all look somewhat unique.
Correct,
Yeah.
and that's the intent,
Yep.
especially, you know, with having that many of them
Right,
in a row. We
right.
don't want to have a barrack-style look, and again, Rich is, I think, doing a great
Yep.
job of trying to break that up, be sensitive to the neighborhood, and give that different look. And again, it's going to be more appealing to, you know, his tenants as well.
Right.
You know, coming in, got a different look. It's not like you're at the same building, you know. So again, he's doing what we can, you know, to give a better difference for, you know, the units.
Okay.
If you go to the site elevations of the building, there's no architectural features on that then apparently. No overhang or anything on the entrance doors?
At this point, no.
No. You know, it's pretty mundane from that standpoint. I'd like to encourage them to do something, whether it be some sort of a little cover over the doors, so as people are entering, you know, they got a little weather protection, whether it be an extension of the roof line or a separate little canopy.
That's
to
something we could definitely take a look
yeah,
at. You know,
I'd take a look at that. I like the fact of changing some of the colors and what you're doing on the front facade, but it would be nice if there was something a little bit on the sides of each of the building.
Are you talking about specifically on, like on Olive, like doing dormers, or are you talking about over the entrances, putting having
Primarily
something break it up?
over the entrances,
Okay.
you know, whether it be a small gable or something, you know, just to give a little definition of
Okay.
the long roof line that's along
the
there.
one thing will be a little difficult, Dan, is right now he does have a 24-inch overhang on that there, so it will give a little bit of protection. So, you know, getting too crazy on these, you know, it's going to affect the roof line.
It's just not
You know, so it's something we can definitely take a look at. You know,
Yeah.
Rich can get with his guys and take a look at it, do what we can. But again, you know, they are providing a little bit of cover over that. But again, you know,
Now, there's only one door into these apartments, I think, correct? There's no back door?
actually there is. There is going to be a back door.
Okay.
So you can see like this one here would be the inside to the courtyard.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, you have the main entrance here, the main entrance would be off Washington here. So these are going to go there. Matt, can you go one page down? You can see that they do have their, you know, so this is going to be the main entrance side. So we do have second means of egress
Okay.
from the building.
When we talk about landscape, I'd also like to see, since on the Olive Street and the street to the north, that being the back door of those units, that maybe there be some landscaping in those areas to kind of give it some screening. If
Yeah, we can.
You understand what I'm
we can definitely look at
saying?
Doing some, just to break up the facade. Understand?
And I think there is some existing landscaping, especially along,
Oakland.
yeah, that they were planning on
Okay.
keeping.
Now, do we have any concerns with water detention in a development like this?
That's my next question.
So per our code residential, so that includes R3s, R2s, R1s, we do not have any requirements for detention within that. So that's why you see a lot of the residential developments, unless it's condo association, subdivision, you know, something like that, where with the roadways and stuff. But per our code, that we do not have any requirements for it.
So I'm assuming that by breaking these up into individual lots, we're not meeting some of the code requirements that we might have if it was like a an M type use, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And a lot of infill, you're not required. But and again, it's that. I guess it's the way the code is written. When you're doing infill housing, you're not required. If you do a brand new subdivision, you're required. If you're doing an apartment complex, you're required. again, it's just different zoning, different requirements for each case there.
Yeah, I guess when I first saw that, I wondered, well, why are we breaking this up into 10 separate individual lots? And at this point, then, there's no real visitor parking provided either.
Correct. And
Well,
if you,
No,
Yeah, there's 90.
yeah,
there's
90
well,
spots.
and again, if you, Matt, if you can go back to the site plan, what we've showed is we've showed the minimum requirement for, 6 or 2 per unit. You can see we have ample area in between, and that's one thing that Rich and I have spoke about from day one is, okay, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna install the required parking. If there is a need for more, because as soon as, if he's got the need for more parking, he has the ability to expand that to
Infill there.
create the additional visitor parking and or whatever is needed. So that's, that's one thing, what's nice about this layout is we do have that ability to do so. Again, being sensitive to the area, we just wanna, it's gonna be, that will be at, as needed type of thing.
Okay. Will there be a sidewalk all along Washington Avenue,
At this point, the area does not have sidewalks.
right?
The intent would to keep,
Oh,
not to do sidewalk.
It does. Off of Oak. Oh, yeah.
Well,
right
some
north
of it
there.
does, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got some up here, it's got some up here, and there we go.
If you're doing
This
the-
here, but there's none. No, I guess there's one there, but there's none over here. There's none down here.
Yeah. If you're doing the front entries and connecting the, say, the 2 opposing buildings with sidewalk, you're halfway to having a sidewalk along Washington Avenue, I would think.
I believe it would be a requirement to put the sidewalk in.
Okay.
I understand both sides of it.
Yeah.
We have lots of sidewalks to nowhere.
Yeah.
But, this applicant was obviously required to put
Right.
in sidewalks. So eventually, like I said, I understand both sides of the argument, but I would contend that the code requires sidewalk to be placed there.
Well, if you look at, let me get the right side here. Obviously, you'd connect that one to that intersection. And you actually have entrances here, so there would have to be some type of access point.
You'd want a sidewalk there. Yeah.
That's my
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, again,
And when I'm-
this sidewalk will come over and tie into there, so they will have connectivity to the rear parking.
Yeah.
So I guess,
And when just to be clear, when I was talking about landscape, I'm talking about in this area?
Yep.
In this area, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm staring at this, and I'm looking at the green space just south of that. Do we know who owns this?
this parcel here is owned by the same
Okay.
owner.
I
as
guess I
this.
was just, as,
Not sure about
I
this.
wasn't, I was just making sure, I'm like, okay, so we're considering this today. Is there planned development here to extend over time, or is that owned by somebody else that might be some other type of development, or nothing at all?
This is owned by somebody else. Again, this is the same owner, and at this
Okay.
point, I mean, obviously, if this goes well and the same owner, feels that, you may have something else come off of over here. I can't say at this point.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that could be a possibility, so, yes.
Okay.
These 2 duplexes down here that were built are, I believe, are 2-story, and they were done nicely. I'm guessing maybe that might be the property line there. It looks like that maybe where it's mowed.
If you look at that black line, that's the auditor parcel numbers, or parcel
right.
lines. So, this could be a relatively large backyard. But again, if you look at this size here, they could have another one there, and they, again, not knowing what the plan was or how they did that, they could definitely have more expansion in that area.
Anything else from the commission at this point?
At this point.
Okay.
Public.
Yeah, anybody in the audience that would like to speak, please feel free to come down, state your name, make sure the mic's on, and the floor is yours.
Hi, this is my first time ever doing this.
Hi, welcome.
My name is Michelle Hodinger, and I'm speaking for Olive, Washington, Oakland, Esther, Marion Drive, and all the area. We do not want this in our area. We are worried about the crime that's going to happen if this comes through. what kind of clientele are you gonna have? Are you gonna have low income, because that's worried to us? Are there gonna be, no offense to immigrants, but are they gonna put immigrants down there? We would like to know, why such a big triplex, why down there? And we are very worried about flooding, because it does flood. Even though they put a new sewer system in, it does flood down there. You got the river from the Blanchard River and I think Eagle Creek. It does come up, and that is a very big concern of ours. And what about traffic? It cannot hold the traffic that you're talking about with the apartment complex and the parking stuff. And we're worried about property value since it's going in. It's a residential, and it's a very quiet area. I've lived there almost all my life. Why was Esther Lane, Olive, and Oakland not included in this notice? I found out through Facebook, and there's a lot of people upset about it that I'm talking for. We're worried about the safety of our kids. There's little kids running around, and if there's people, not looking what they're doing at the complex, because people drive crazy, we got a lot of kids. And my daughter's special needs, and she's worried about, noise and stuff. She has seizures, and with the construction and that, I'm worried about that, because she's got PTSD on a lot of stuff. And she's worried about a lot of things. And if ambulances are down there with the clientele, she's scared. So I guess that's what our questions are and concerns.
Okay.
Could you tell me a little more about the flooding issues? Where do you see the water coming up? It doesn't come obviously all the way from up Eagle Creek, but what happens when it rains?
Well, on Oakland, they have Eagle Creek it comes up through there, through that street. It
Right.
almost came to 139 Esther Lane. It's a couple feet away from where it floods. But in the field, there's Jack's plumbing and that, and it comes up through there.
Okay.
I don't. It comes. Yeah, it comes up through there, and it comes up, and it's just the land. If you would see it, it's there's still water when it floods.
Just sitting there from the rain?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it comes into our sewer system, and then on Esther Lane and Olive and Washington, it flooded last year. Even though they put the new one in, it flooded, right down the end of Esther, it flooded.
There it is. It's over here.
Yeah.
Here's Eagle Creek
Creek,
here.
right.
There should be a pointer up there.
I don't know how to use it. Sorry.
No problem. Just press that little button there, and the green light comes on. So
Okay, I don't even know how to, where the map, Eagle Creek.
Yep, there's
And
Eagle
where's
Creek.
your
Yep.
area at, right
Yep.
in here?
it's
See, I don't even know how to use this, right?
This is right here is the
Yeah.
proposed
Yep.
development.
Yeah,
This
but
is
it all-
Jack's.
But it all comes up through this area and floods right through this Olive and that. And we got fields that are right here, that floods too. And it comes onto the field or the street and that's a big concern of ours. And if this does go through, can we put fences so we don't have to, or barriers so we don't have to see it? Because we don't want this at all.
Wait, can you help me understand where you would prefer to have a fence if that was a consideration?
Washington.
On Washington?
Yeah,
You-
Washington and Olive and Park, or Oakland, that area, the whole area, so we don't have to see it. Or sound barrier, something that, like I said, my daughter is very scared, and she's 22. Sorry to be,
No,
sorry.
no, appreciate your
Thank you for the
comments.
comments.
I will say, Dan came and talked to me about this project, and I did have concerns. It does remind me a lot of a very similar project, and I'll go to it real quick. If you're familiar with the old St. Michael's School,
Yeah.
now I'm under the pressure of finding it quickly.
Yeah.
Lincoln. Thank you. So, you know, when Dan brought me this project and I was thinking it over, you know, I did have concerns, you know, having duplexes, triplexes, and a significant amount of them next to an existing single-family neighborhood. And in this case, we have 12 buildings. I believe it's 24 to 40 units. I forget what it is. We had a lot of concerns from the neighbors. And it's been up for a couple years now. And I just asked Eric, you know, from a zoning standpoint, have you had many complaints or concerns or nuisance violations?
We didn't have any. I mean, since it's been in there. If you remember the members that were still on the board at the time, I think it might have been Jackie and Dan. This project originally came through as a multi-family, and there was just upheaval in the neighborhood, and everybody was complaining. So they ended up doing the R3 route with the duplex triplexes, and the compliments that the neighborhood has given this property has been amazing. Like we thought that was going to be this way, but it turned out to be a great investment for our area, and it has increased their property values too. And I can, for that one, for the Adams, I can speak on that. I know there was concern about the cost. These ones were like $1,200 to $1,600 a unit, and I don't know whether Mr. Benner is going to our route, but in conversations with him, his target audience is more of the professional hospital working individual, more so than a low income person.
And I know a concern is the sidewalks. We don't want sidewalks down our residential. We don't want to be made to do that. That would not look good.
No. We'd be talking about new sidewalks for the new construction only.
But I'm just
Yeah.
saying, in case you guys, we don't want sidewalks, if we have to have it.
Okay.
down the
That's good to know.
streets. It wouldn't, you know, there's not enough room.
Not enough room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. So I'm not to sit here and advocate for a project, but I did the St. Mike's project was the first one that came to my mind, and how has that gone so far? So that's what gives me a little more comfort, is that we've seen a similar project and we've seen it be successful. So I just wanted to bring that experience forward, because I think there's similar comparisons.
Make sure it's on. And from a emergency response, police and fire, that neighborhood up by St. Mike's is not one that is frequented as you would assume with that type of, because of the success of it and the price point of what it was versus subsidized. So,
Yeah, generally, new construction, quality new construction is going to bring quality
And
tenants
that's
in.
another concern. If there's
Yeah.
ambulances down there, fire trucks, all that, we don't have that right now, but if there would
Sure.
be, my daughter, you're gonna have her have seizures. She has seizures.
understand.
And that's gonna happen. And like, we can't even go to a parade because of the sirens, or she'll have a panic attack right then and there because of the sounds. She can't deal with it.
I'm sorry
Yeah.
to hear that.
Dan, these are market rate. Do you have a general rent level that
Currently, right now, the going rate is about $1,000 per unit. But what Mr. Benner also does is he tries to work with veterans or people in a medical facility and give them a discounted rate.
Medical professionals, not.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
medical professionals.
Wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. So again, this is not low income by no means. It is market rate. He's looking for the, more professional style or, tenants. This is down by the hospital. Hopefully that'll help drive some things. with, you know, with regards to the clientele, obviously, the intent is not to have this be low income.
Right.
We'll leave it at that. With regards to, you know, the whole traffic thing, with Olive coming out to Main Street and all of the parking kind of being in the back side of it, the intent most likely is, if I had to guess, I would say 75 to 80% of them, if they're gonna go north, they're gonna come down to Olive, over to Main Street, and then go up Main Street or south down, you know, to 15. So, you know, again, access-wise, you know, they're not gonna be coming down Esther. With regards to drainage, Jeremy, I would like to try to set up a meeting with you sometime, talk about the whole area, let's assess this. Because the last thing that Rich wants to do, nor myself, is to put something in here that's going to be a negative impact on the area. You know, if this area is a flooding area, we know it's outside the floodplain.
Right.
Obviously, in 2007, 2008, you know, that was a catastrophic event that we had. Everything in Findlay was flooded. But what we'll do is we'll work with the engineering department to try to address that, to make sure. And again, Rich doesn't want to build here if his places are going to be underwater.
Right.
So we'll make sure that we work on that and get that addressed properly.
Where was the new line put in, the new main sewer line?
It
Was
goes,
it on-
it goes north up Washington Street.
Okay.
So the city just came through and redid a bunch of that, added
Yeah.
some larger diameter storm sewer to help get that water away, because the main line, I believe, is up there and it goes over to Lye Creek eventually.
And
When
from your
was
guys'
that-
perspective, Jeremy, that's sized appropriately for this added development.
Yeah,
to
so
take-
when we do the sizings, and there's multiple storm sewers within there, but you know,
Okay.
one of the problems that we were having with was there was a lot of low-lying areas that were retaining water too long. We wanted to capture those, but I mean, Dan can speak for it because he actually worked with us on this project. But we do calculate within our drainage areas of what we need to accomplish with those storms.
Okay.
But you know, if you have back up from Eagle Creek or something like that, no matter what size you have for that, if it's going to back up, it's going to back up. So that's tough to say on that. But the way we design it with the storms and the sizing, I would feel adequate. But again, you can't design for a 100-year storm on that. So it should be capturing what, like I said, that Washington Avenue going north was to capture those low-lying areas and to help alleviate from the smaller storm that is there right now.
And
And it
I-
still doesn't on Esther. It's still, even though you put the new one in, it does not stop the flooding. I mean, it's backed up to like a couple houses up on Esther Lane.
like on the edge of
It's
the
like,
street.
it's like, here's the sewer system.
Yeah.
It will come up to a couple of the houses, like their driveways.
When was the last time you seen that?
After the sewer, I can't tell you when, but it was after the sewer system, because we all made comments about it. once
Like
it-
recently?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll check into that.
Jeremy, that project was pretty recent, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just completed in October and November
Of this year?
of this year.
So
Oh.
it was
Could have been
completed.
sitting at that period where it has to sit before it actually.
No, that
activates.
would be storm. So, you know, it could be one of those things that sometimes as you're digging, you don't see the line, but a tooth of an excavator could have caught something. If it is backing up on Esther now, since we put it in, we might have to do some investigating, make sure there's nothing happened. But yeah,
Okay.
that was just put in this fall.
Like a few weeks ago, it got finished.
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm empathetic to the water, and that's some of the efforts that we've made as a community with the flood mitigation, with the basin that's going to be constructed, and some of these other, the benching and whatnot. So I'm optimistic that what's getting constructed south of town, the dry basin that directly impacts Eagle Creek, will reduce this potential in the future. And that's you know, in the next couple of years, as that gets constructed, it's going to complement what we're trying to, or our entire community, not only Eagle Creek, but Lye and the Blanchards. So I would anticipate this being less of an issue in the future. Yeah, does anyone else want to speak? And ma'am, thank you again for your comments. We really appreciate
you.
that. Anyone else for or against this in the audience? Yes, ma'am. Can you please, sorry, because it's live stream and recorded, if you could come down and introduce yourself, and the podium is yours.
I did not sign up to speak, but I had sent an email. I'm not sure if you had received it or not.
What's your name, ma'am?
My name is Dawn Berry.
Hi.
Hi.
Did Jacob?
Did receive it. I think you sent it last night, maybe.
Yes,
Yeah. I
Sorry,
got it this morning.
I just got the notice
Yeah.
on Monday. and
Nope, you're fine. Do we have to, are we good with her just having commentary?
Yeah.
No, sure.
Swear in,
Do you swear to tell the truth and
Yes, I do.
conform to all
Okay,
the rules?
perfect. Just for formality of things,
Okay,
thank you.
no
So
problem.
please help yourself.
I thank you for the opportunity to speak on this. I live on the corner of Fairmont and Olive. I don't know how to use
Yep,
this.
it's right there in the south. Yep.
Oh. Go that way. Okay, so I live right there. So I am diagonal to the property. And I just have some concerns on traffic. I know I'm not an expert on traffic, but I have lived on that property for 21 years and just know the traffic flow of going down Olive. There's a lot of semis that go down there for ADS. We have, employees for ADS. We have the employees for Jack's Plumbing and Heating and S&S Landscaping. And then you also have the traffic for all of the University of Findlay equestrian students go down there. So it is quite a bit of traffic that goes down there on that road. And then you have, Olive is kind of like a cut through for everybody on the south end of town, trying to get out to the east side and everything. So I just have concerns with adding, additional 60 cars daily, flowing into that mix. I just feel like that's going to be additional traffic, and also accidents, can happen with the traffic that's going to be added. And also, people do travel kind of fast on Olive, in my opinion. I know when my kids were young, they would play our side yard is up there against Olive, and we'd be outside with them. And I know my husband has yelled several times at cars going down Olive on how fast that they're going. So I just have concerns, and safety for our neighborhood, because we do have a lot of kids in the neighborhood that ride their bikes and play in their yards, and people that walk in the neighborhood and everything. So I have concerns on that, as well as, what this will do to our property value. I know you had talked about the other units over by St. Mike's old school, but I don't feel like these, in hearing his conversation and your conversation, I don't think these projects are exactly the same. Their rent is from $1,200 to $1,600. It's going to be a different clientele for where he said 1,000 or under. So you're going to have a different clientele on there also. So what is that going to do to our property values? Also, you're going to have 30 additional families that are going to be living there. So just the noise in the neighborhood. I know when my husband and I were looking at buying that property 21 years ago, we had looked in different areas, and we actually looked on property over on Rosemont, which is across from the apartment complex there, and we chose not to buy there because we didn't want to, deal with apartment life and all the commotion and everything that you have dealing with that. Also, on just the uptake on the property, if it's houses that are being put on there, not saying everybody falls in this category as renters, but typically homeowners will take better care of their property than renters will take care of their property. So we also have a concern on that also.
I do have a quick question on the traffic issue, and this is maybe more for the city, but have you looked at it, or does it make sense to add stop signs along Olive? I mean, we're Olive and Washington, because I ride my bike down there too, and that's a dangerous area. It can
is. Yeah.
So, and I say this in traffic commission too, stop signs are not made to control speed. If you put a stop sign at Olive and Washington, and say you put a stop sign there, then tendency people, what they're going to do is, because they stop there, now they're going to speed up because they feel like they had lost time. Really what stop signs are for, kind of turning movements or something like that. So if you have Washington where you're having a lot of turning movements, where there's a lot of conflict points with that, that's when you start putting stop signs in. But controlling the speed down through there, it would be more of a target enforcement type thing. So, I always say we get a lot of those in traffic commission too, and we never put them for speed control or anything like that. Looking from a traffic standpoint, and kind of same way with the drainage, You know, not saying there's not any improvements that can be done with the roadway or drainage or anything like that, but if these properties were sold to 10 different people and they did 10 different houses on that, then, you know, we'd still be the same requirement as now. We wouldn't be forcing all 10 of them to be totally changing the roadway. So, you know, looking at how, from our standpoint of how I can push our guidelines and legally have that, it's tough to do on that. But Olive Street, I agree. There's a lot of traffic with ADS and with the equestrian barn down through there as well. So it is a very busy street. I know when we were paving that, we were getting a lot of traffic down through that area. So it is something we can look at and maybe do a small traffic study on and see if there's any improvements that the city could be doing on this. But any kind of stop signs would be tough to do for speed control.
Okay.
So kind of have a question. As a private property owner, not only the one that's being proposed, but the ones that are the residential, what would you find feasible to be here? I mean, so we have to, I appreciate your nothing comment, but as much as you want to protect your property, ma'am, this property owner wants to create value and protect his. So I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here and say, and we want to create harmony, and that we really do. That we're not. That's just not us saying that. We want to create a balance between what's existing, and also to make sure the property owner of this green space, what they want to do, we can protect them as well. So I want to almost say, what would you find acceptable in this green space as that property owner looks to do something with their space?
I mean, to me, if there's houses on there, it would be a difference just because of upkeep. I mean, it'd be similar to our properties would be there. 30 units, you're not gonna have 30 houses there, so it would be less traffic, less cars, better upkeep, more similar to what our properties are, keeping our property values the same.
Okay, I appreciate that. And the other one, and this is more for Dan or Mr. Benner, when he builds infill, when he's done and has tenants, who manages those properties? Is it him, or does he hand them off to somebody else to manage?
You have a company that does it, or do you do it personally? You do it personally?
Oh, we manage.
Okay. So the upkeep of the land is by Mr. Benner or another company. So he does not put the onus on each tenant to upkeep their own property. Obviously, if there's debris and stuff outside, the owner's gonna, hey, you gotta clean it up, with a regional trash facilities, hopefully, like I said, positioning them properly will keep people from throwing stuff outside. With regards to, we heard that, residential homes would be preferred. You could put probably 10 to 11 houses on there. If they were to do that, all of those driveways would then access Washington Street. So now what you're doing is we're taking all of that traffic, putting it on Washington, rather than trying to put it on more of Olive and Oakland. So again, we understand that. With these being single-story units, it's more harmonious to the neighborhood. With this being R3, you could put a duplex on there. You could get, a multiple floor building on there. So again, single floor, trying to keep it there. And I think that's big, some of the difference between the cost is the ones at St. Mike's, they have multiple floors. This is a single floor. You're not going to pay $1,500 for a single floor. So again, we understand their concerns and stuff like that, but I just want to make sure that the commission understands, what could happen if it were homes and stuff like that, and what we're trying to do to help the neighborhood the best we can with what we're trying to propose.
I appreciate that added comment. I guess my point of my question was, Mr. Benner doesn't build these and hand them and sell them to someone. He has a vested interest to maintain the value of this because this is his property he's maintaining.
Yes, he retains his buildings.
Yes.
Well, and I think there's gonna be a difference in the noise levels. If you have 10 families compared to 30, I mean, there's gonna be more congestion, more noise with 30 than with 10. And then also on your fact with the apartments over on by the St. Mike's School. Are those 3-bedroom apartments that are there, or are they 2-bedroom?
Yes, they're three and 2 full baths.
Right.
So that would be the difference in cost.
Right, that's a
Where I
difference.
think they're two bedrooms, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms.
So you're looking at completely different clientele.
It's if you base it off of that, it's per room bedroom is what the typical rental cost goes. So if you look at it that way, it would be about the same. So if these ones were single floor, they'd probably be $800 to $1,200 a unit. The ones on Adams Street.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan, do you recall, I don't have the information at hand, was this property zoned industrial at one point? Rich, do you recall? I know that the land use plan has it as industrial.
I think.
It may have been at one time, just for the simple fact of all of the industry down there.
Yeah.
But obviously, being moved to a residential, it's less intense.
We can't accept this as fact, but I'm 90% sure this was zoned industrial at one point.
That sounds right.
Prior to our 2020
Because
update.
this is the fact of it is, it's just an interesting property in that, office, industrial, and then we kind of have it's, I sure wouldn't want industrial there. It is a
Right.
it is a tough site because it is it's between industrial and single family.
Did we talk at all about landscaping in the front along Olive and Washington and Oakland? We did.
That's
Did I
what.
miss that?
Yeah, I'm going back to assuring the stormwater and then the aesthetics of the landscaping or the things. Again, knowing what Mr. Benner's properties have done and maintained their value and actually increased the values around where he's done infill in the past. I know the unknown is concerning, but I've seen the results other places in our community. But the screening for harmonious aspects as well as the stormwater are the things that I want to have more confidence in as we move forward, if we choose to move forward.
I had one more thing on, I know they were gonna do some, I think actually who left, on the flooding on her
Yes, ma'am.
area. We also have flooding on Fairmont, so just wanna make sure that that's not going to affect.
And that's where
I'll make
the
sure
water
Jeremy knows
comes.
that when we meet. 'Cause
Okay.
Jeremy then here.
Yeah, Pete, yeah.
He had to take a conference call at 10:30. He apologized.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah,
And that's
we'll-
where
if there's an
from
issue,
where is
we'll
it?
go dig
Where
it
is it?
for
I
it.
never
Yeah,
Fairmont.
regardless
Where
if we do
Fairmont
this
is,
or
that's
not.
where the water comes up to Esther Lane and all that. That's where
So-
it comes up. And I would rather, when you said about devil's advocate, I would rather have a house or like something different than a triplex.
Okay.
If I had my choice.
Thank you
And
for
I'm
that.
talking to a couple other people in the back, that's how they would feel too.
Thank you. And I just, to the point of everyone talking about the stormwater, if we do actually have an issue that's been recognized, we're going to investigate it, because when we invest in those types of things, water, storm, whatnot, if it's not doing what it should be doing, we need to make assured that it is servicing that area the way it's intended to do. There's math and science behind this. So if there's an issue, we're going to go investigate that to make sure it's working properly. So we appreciate you letting us know that it's not doing what it was intended to do.
And then, like you
Regardless
said-
of whether
Yeah,
this project goes
regardless
forward or
of this
not.
And
project.
Like where Fairmont is back there, I don't even know the streets names, but it's off Olive and it's like the first street, but there's like Eagle Creek that goes back there and it floods and it does come up. So that's I don't know the name of the street, but it does come up.
Yep.
And that's like when we had the big flood, that's where it all came up at.
Yep, and that's one of the things with the flood mitigation that we're going to
Yeah.
eliminate.
Yeah.
So, but thank you,
You're
though.
welcome.
Sir, good afternoon, or, well, still good morning, thankfully.
I'm Pete Center. I'm sorry, I'm not sworn, but I've swore a lot in this building, but I've sworn to a lot of things. I just wanted to clarify for the committee about the flooding. My concern is the displacement of the floodwater. And I know you can't do a lot, but a lot has been done on remediation, and I can notice that. I do notice that already. But my problem is, and I wanted to show you, I live at the corner right there, at Washington and Olive, and I've lived there 26 years. During the 2007 flood, I was sitting in my driveway, and the water came up behind Dawn's house, right there by that woods right there. And it was about a 2-foot wave, and it hit the street, and it went diagonally across that field this way, right towards the river. The creek, of course, is not that far away. Within an hour, it went from the creek to Washington Avenue within an hour, okay? And it went, we were at that time right outside the floodplain. I don't know what it is now, I haven't looked at a flood map, but we were just outside it then. My question is the water displacement. I know you can't predict how high it's going to get, but I just don't want those buildings to push that water more westerly towards the west and, you know, past the west side of Washington Avenue. I don't know if that would do that. I know you have to build out of the floodplain. I know the floodplain's changed, but that's what my concern is. That, and I have expected the building long before this. You know, I knew as long as Jack Winter owned it, there probably wouldn't be anything on that property. But since he passed away, it's changed hands a few times. And building, I don't know how much longer I'm going to live there anyways, but I just wanted to make sure the flood, it wasn't going to affect the flooding. And I know you can't predict that.
Sure.
But
Just, I brought up, this is the blue, just for everyone's information, the blue is the 100-year floodplain.
Right.
Obviously, the 2007 flood was a 500 to 1,000-year flood.
Right.
But just for information.
Okay. I just wanted to show them that where the water ran at that time, it ran at an angle. And a lot of the pipe from Hancor, or ADS now, was flowing down through that field and hitting, you know, I mean, there was things just going down that. But I know ADS had a lot of pipe and stuff in their yard. I don't know how they store it now, but it did flow through that field too. Yeah. So, you know, you don't want stuff, but that was my only concern. I just, you know, about the water. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Matt, what's the lot coverage? Is that roofed area or all hard surface?
It's square footage of the floor area. That's the coverage.
Oh, okay.
No pavement.
And there's no variances they need for
Nope.
anything. Okay.
Nope.
We fall within the lot coverage percentage. We made sure of that when we laid all this out.
Okay.
The one thing I'd like to do is address Mr. Senert's comment. You know, they stated that the floodwaters kind of came up through this way. The one good thing about the layout that we have, if the buildings are set up, you know, at Washington Street, the parking lot behind it is going to maintain basically the same elevation it is today. So if there were floodwaters, and hopefully we never see that again, that were to come up through here, they would still kind of maintain that same path that it takes now, but it'll be going through the pavement. So we should not have a damming effect that Mr. Senert is concerned about.
Okay, a question too, Dan. On the sites, how are you handling the water runoff? Are you going to have catch basins, storm sewers?
That's what we're going to work with Jeremy on.
Okay.
That's all part of the addressing the flooding and all that and working with that.
Dan, just the conversation has been, because this is 10 individual lots, our code does not require, you know, if you build one house, you're not required to.
But again,
Yeah, but you can't drain your parking lot onto the adjacent property.
correct. No, that will be taken care of. It's going to maintain within itself, and by virtue, most likely there will have to be some type of catch basins. Mr. Benner's talked about that from day one in the back area. But again, that's something that what we'll do is we'll look at the whole area and we'll make sure that this area again does not negatively impact. Even though we're not required to put together a detailed plan like we do for commercial developments and stuff like that, we're going to make sure that this area works properly and it doesn't create any negative impacts. We don't want, because we don't want to flood out the neighbor, and like I said, nor does Mr. Benner want to have his property be a bowl where it's holding water all the time too.
Right.
So again, that's something that will be addressed at that time. But again, we'll make sure that we work with city engineering about the whole area as a whole to make sure, again, that everything's working properly.
Anyone else? Commission, any more comments, questions, discussion?
We talked about it quite a bit. Sorry,
Yeah.
Rob, yeah, go for it.
And this is conditional use, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
What are the conditions that would come before you if something wasn't working right? You know, conditional use can be revoked, but what kind of issues could that be? If individual lot problems, you know, or something?
A conditional use can be revoked.
Yeah.
The decision on revoking that, it comes back to you.
Okay.
We've not done that, but it is a legal option.
Yeah.
And you guys would hear the testimony and make a decision.
So we had that one, the welder down in West Park. He had his come back to you because he had not fulfilled all the conditions that he had on his approval. So because we had conditions on it, he had to meet them. Otherwise, they were looking to potentially revoke it. So.
The one thing too, Dan, I believe when the zoning code was set up to have duplex and triplex in this with the conditional use allows the planning commission to give feedback on, you know, the layout and how everything works too. So it's kind of, you see it up front, you understand what it is, you make your comments, they address it, and if they don't get addressed properly, then that's when it comes back in, you know, like what happened down in West Park, so.
Okay. So a rejection of the conditional use would only be based upon those conditions that were applied to the approval. I mean, it's not like buildings get in disrepair or anything like that.
I think there is some latitude there that you could revoke a conditional use for more than just what the conditions were.
Oh, okay.
But we'd have to have some good lawyers talk
Right.
about that, and that's
Yeah.
not me.
And again, with the history of Mr. Benner, I don't anticipate that happening.
Okay,
So,
go.
yeah, I had a list of conditions.
I want to, because we've covered a lot. We've
Right.
had some really good discussion, and I really appreciate the residents coming and sharing your comments and concerns, and they're definitely not going on deaf ears or not being considered. But let's go through our
Yeah,
bullet points.
The two that were included with staff recommendation, make the unit closest to Washington Avenue have a front entry to make it oriented to the street, include screening or landscaping in the rear to screen the parking lot. And there was three that I've noted that I'd like to
Can
add.
I expand that landscaping one?
You sure
to,
can.
To the Olive
I think there was
Yeah.
The
and
north and
along
south
Olive
streets.
and Oakland.
Yes.
Yeah. That was one I was gonna add.
Jacob, don't
You got
interrupt.
ahead of him, Jake.
Yeah, so it include the landscaping off of Olive, Washington, and Oakland, kind of the front yards. Sidewalk along Olive, Washington, and Oakland. And then breaking up the buildings with mixtures of facades, stone and brick, colors, and roof styles. And again, those were intended to help alleviate some of the concerns with the aesthetics, some of the concerns with the noise. That landscaping will help buffer these sites from, and make them fit in, I think, better to the existing residential. And then separately, this wouldn't be a condition, but you guys were gonna look at Esther and Fairmount.
I think
flooding.
I don't think it's a condition. I think it's an obligation for us to actually do our due diligence on the stormwater. So
Yeah.
that I have confidence in our relationship that we're going to figure that out for this property, number one, and we'll work with the engineering department if there's something we need to adjust on what was just done.
And
So-
Jeremy also did state he would try to look at, see what the city can do about the traffic on Olive Street as
Yep.
well.
And
Again,
Yeah, we could-
just to be clear, the reason
not
those
a
aren't
condition on us, but
No,
it's
no, no.
something that the city is going
Correct.
to go ahead
That's
and look
on-
at
Exactly.
to help address some of the comments that the residents have brought up.
That's my responsibility to work with the police department and the engineering department if we need to do target enforcement or even do a traffic study to see if there's, traffic flows. That's a different group that does that, but loud and clear, that's on me and my team to work on that.
Did you guys have
Anything?
I don't think I've got anything more.
Okay, well then with
Can-
those,
Can I?
yeah.
Go ahead, Jake.
I was just to clarify, I'm gonna read back what you had,
Yeah.
Carrie. So the first one stays the same with the unit on Washington to make it front oriented. The screening and landscaping in the rear to screen the parking lot, and additional landscaping along Olive, Washington, and Oakland. Have some architectural features to break up the front facade so that they're not all uniform. Was there a condition on working with the engineer to address drainage on site? Was that a condition, or was that something that we just wanted to have in the background?
I think Rob said that's an obligation that
Okay.
we need to work with the city on, so
So-
not necessarily a condition for this.
Well,
Right, it's not the current property owner's responsibility. I think that's what you're saying. The city's responsibility to do that outside of this.
Well,
But in addition to that, we're gonna make sure that this site works well within what's going on.
So drainage on site is actually the
Yeah.
property owner's
Right.
responsibility to
Right.
make sure it's not shedding to the existing and, yeah. So it has to be, and I do rely on, well, you're the engineer, so, or an
So-
engineer, so.
Yeah, I think
But the
the
other,
the issues on Esther, water flowing between houses, that's
on
going to
us.
fall on Rob to investigate with engineering.
Correct.
I do agree with the condition that
On-site.
the on-site drainage be reviewed and administratively approved by the city engineer.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
And that was all I had.
Sidewalk along
Sidewalk.
Olive, Washington, and Oakland.
I believe our code, and I know, sorry, Dan and Rich, but I think all the, this house was required to put in sidewalks. So I think all three frontages have to have a sidewalk.
Which I think we're in agreement. We're saying the same.
Okay.
You're saying it's required already, and I was saying I'm putting it
I
as a
thought you only
condition.
mentioned two of the roadways.
No, Olive, Washington, and Oakland.
I apologize.
Yep.
That's on my ears.
No problem.
And that's part of the code.
That's probably part of it. Okay, with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the conditional use with those conditions.
I'll second that. Jacob?
Real quick, did we have a condition about submitting a landscape plan for review? Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
I'm 2 minutes behind.
No,
on
that's
everything
okay.
today.
There were a lot of points made.
Okay. Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Trombley,
Aye.
Ms. Schroeder,
Aye.
Mr. Klinger.
Nay.
Okay.
We appreciate all the dialogue.
No,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you.
And thank you very much.
All right. With that, it looks like we've finished our agenda. So at this point, the motion, just adjourn. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.